I appreciate that very much, Mr. Chairman, and certainly thank you to all our witnesses for making the trip and being here with us today. So, Mr. Culp, I'd very much like to start with you, and congratulations on everything that you're doing. We're serving as a representative, Farm Bureau, and many other roles that you play. So, as far as small business goes, are taxes helpful? Higher taxes? That's something that helps small business?
Not at all, actually.
It adds cost.
No,
It
no,
adds cost.
taxes, no, taxes.
You think you pay your fair share?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, yeah, and higher taxes make American businesses and certainly American farms less competitive. And then you make less because you're paying higher taxes. You then there's a negative return on that investment since you're making less because you can't reinvest in your business, and therefore tax revenues will go down. How about regulations? Have regulations from the federal government or state government, for that matter, been helpful to you?
Regulations are not helpful.
Okay. So, and what about workforce? What do you think has caused the great decline? I mean, COVID obviously, but since then.
Well, COVID highlighted it, but I mean, with the retirement of the baby boomers, and we don't have the skilled workforce available. And we have issues right now where we have young folks. A real example is a local drive-in. I got a call from them in a neighboring town. Local drive-in hires high school kids. And so I didn't realize, but there are regulations on number of hours they can work depending on their age and depending on if it's a school year or not. And here's kids that are 14, 15, 16 that want to work, but there's government regulations say they can only work to 9 p.m., and so they're not able to. So,
access to capital, let's come up from a few of you. The massive spending that took place over the last couple of years, did that benefit you? Did you see any of that money? $5 trillion? No. You don't see anything, right? Energy costs, obviously, that's an added burden, causes inflation.
Have gone up.
As did the spending. And I know broadband is something that we've handled horribly, both the federal and state government, rural broadband, so that needs to be micromanaged in order so you have the right access to it. Has the federal government, particularly over the last 2 years, done anything, and we have this farm bill coming out, done anything that has been positive for you? And Ms. Cassidy, I'm going to come to you in a second. As a chamber, let me just divert to you if you don't mind. You're chamber president. You have your small business and everything else. You mentioned insurance. You can't afford insurance, small business. There's something called association health plans, AHPs, that used to exist. Farmers used to love them, particularly in Pennsylvania. But my colleagues on the Democrat side just wiped them out. I mean, Democrat governors hate them. Colleagues here hate them because largely the only thing I can figure is they want you to go into Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. I mean, Ms. Cassidy, comment to me on why you think the AHPs, if you're familiar with them, have been eliminated.
I'm not super familiar with them.
Okay,
but
it allows all of your chamber members to buy in a group so as their insurance rates, healthcare rates, and such would come down. But they've been eliminated. It's really greatly negatively affected small businesses as well as farms in Pennsylvania. But just going through the list, has the federal government over the last couple of years done anything except create barriers, as you mentioned? It's been helpful.
It's correct. Yeah, I mean, we are constantly combating all of the inflation. It seems like every time I turn around, there's something else that costs more money. It's more money. It's more money, which means there's less. There's less left over.
Doing a terrible job, right? Mr. Splitter, let me ask you. You brought up access to capital a couple of times, and then you said regs are putting you out of business. Hopefully, this farm bill. I'm sure the SNAP program is the majority of the farm bill, of course, and has positive effects on your business. It needs to be continued. It's important. None of us argue that. But tell me let's talk about access to capital. How are you using credit unions? Are you using SBA? Are you using community banks?
We're using a community bank that specializes in agriculture.
And do you understand that the SEC, the FDIC and the Fed want to increase the deposit requirements of these community banks?
We've been made aware of that.
Yeah. What do you think of that?
Thankfully, we're past that point in our operation. But if we would have been facing those regulations 10 years ago, it probably we would have had to file bankruptcy.
Look forward to getting from you. Your testimonies were great. Anything at all that you can provide that we need to stop doing or do a lot better, I'd be love to see it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.